please give us tomahawks.
Maybe we'll be giving him tomahawks. Hello?
Do not give him tomahawks.
We will not be giving you tomahawks. How about a ceasefire and summit talks?
No to any ceasefire summit talks.
There will not be any summit talks. Wait, can you explain?
My demands, they have not changed.
Complete control over Ukraine?
Yes, it's always been the same.
I wish I could allow it, but what I can say for now is that for sure before long we're gonna do this very strongly again.
Public regime.
Again. We said again instead of again, like we were like Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn. Again.
Yeah. We're gonna sanction your oil now.
2, 3, hey.
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Vostradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is gonna be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Straight ahead, from the America First Policy Institute, it's Connor Smith. From the Independent Women's Forum, Patrice Onwuka joining us. Back with more social commentary this week, it's Nick Peterson. Sketch comedy from the puppet regime, Al Berry and the Babylon Bee. And in the spotlight, she's back. It's Megan Woods. And now from Times Square, where the new mayor-elect, Zoran Mamdani, has already blown through the city budget, and he doesn't get sworn in until January. Here's Kevin!
Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to the weekend. Got a lot to get to, and I am so excited because we are just a little more than 1 week away from the start of the daily, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, that Kevin show on, it's 200 more stations than it was on before. And thank you for those of you that are planning on being with me every day, and please tell your friends. We want to have a huge just party on the air every day. We want to think about things from a common sense perspective. We want to tell the truth. We want to make sure that we're thinking through the biggest news of the day from a rational, positive, God-fearing perspective, because that's what I think we should be. And that brings me to this opening story today that I'm really struggling with. I saw this come across the wires yesterday, but late in the day on Friday, a federal judge said that the Trump administration could not limit commercial driver's licenses for illegal immigrants. Now, this is crazy. It's the Federal Appeals Court in Washington, D.C. And listen to, you know why this came about? Because you saw the video. It went viral. It was that guy, that truck that pulled the U-turn in the middle of the freeway, and he killed a family and messed up traffic for miles. It was hideous. Well, Harjinder Singh, who is an Indian citizen, started to say idiot citizen. No, he's an Indian citizen who entered illegally into the U.S. from Mexico in 2018, pleaded not guilty to 3 counts of vehicular homicide and 3 counts of manslaughter after jackknifing his truck during an illegal U-turn that caused a van to smash into the side of the tractor trailer. That's what he got arrested for. But here's what the court did. They found that the federal government did not, quote, follow proper procedure when creating the new rule or explain how the rule would promote safety. What's the rule? To limit illegals getting truckers' licenses. Because evidently now it's not common sense to give illegals truckers' licenses. But listen to this. This is who they want having a license. So the judges noted that the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration says that about 5% of all commercial driver's licenses are belonging to immigrants, and they found that they're only approximating and accounting for about 0.2% of the fatal crashes, but both of which are significantly very, very tiny numbers. But Singh, who received his license in California, failed his CDL knowledge exam in Washington state. Get this, 10 times. He failed it in Washington state 10 times before he supposedly passed it in California. We know how California works, by the way. They do funny stuff down there. They don't follow common sense, math, science, law, and it's like a Wild West weird space down there. That was 10 times within 2 months. He took the test 10 times in 2 months and failed all 10 times. He failed his air brake knowledge exam. You know what brakes are? They're what help the thing to stop. He failed that exam twice in Florida. So he goes to Florida to get his commercial driver's licenses. He fails his brake exam. He goes to Washington to get his CDL. He fails that test 10 times in a row. And finally, California gave him his driver's license. Oh, wait a minute. Nope, they didn't. Hold on. He also failed, in between the other failures, an English proficiency test. So, an audit of California records showed that many immigrants' licenses remain valid long after their work permits expire, leading the state to revoke about 17,000 licenses. He was arrested for allegedly making an unauthorized U-turn in Florida that resulted in the crash. He should have been arrested for the manslaughter and the death of the people. The new DOT restrictions would allow immigrants who hold 3 specific classes of visas to obtain licenses valid for 1 year. Though the rules would disqualify about 10,000 of the 200,000 current immigrants with CDLs, the rules would not be enforced, meaning drivers could keep their licenses until they expire. But a judge said, you know what? I know Trump administration. This guy failed his CDL 10 times, failed his English proficiency test, failed his brakes test. He's just failing all over the place at this truck driving stuff. But because you're mean, because you're a big, mean, nasty meanie, we're going to make sure that you can't take his license away. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy announced in October the administration is now going to withhold about $40 million from California over its refusal to enforce English language requirements for truckers. Do you think that it might be a smart idea there, Mr. Gavin Newsom, to have your truck drivers that you're putting out on the road in huge behemoth machines that are, in traffic with everyday people? Do you think it's a good idea that they be able to speak English? That they be able to read the signs, that they be able to understand where they're going? I'm sure that part of Harjinder Singh's defense was he didn't understand it was an illegal U-turn because he didn't speak the language. No speak English. This is not how it should go. This judge is out of control, as are many of the judges that randomly seem to want to just punish the Trump administration just because they don't like them. But let me ask you, the American people, when you're thinking about common sense, when you're thinking about safety on the roads, would you like to know that the CDL operators out there, the drivers in those enormous trucks going 70, 80, 90 miles an hour on the highway, that the people operating them actually know the language that they're supposed to know and that they actually pass the test that they're supposed to pass in order to be able to drive that thing? What is with the crazy? And why can't we just solve things with common sense? Yes, let's have truck drivers speak English. There's not really a good explanation for why California would want to pass on CDLs in such a fashion. And there's really no good explanation at all for why this judge believes that it's the right thing to do to tell the Trump administration that they can't clamp down on it. You know who's doing the right thing? Transportation Secretary Duffy. Because he's actually saying, no, we're not going to allow that to happen anymore. You get your people speaking English and passing the test the right way, and then we'll go from there. All right, we've got a huge show for you coming up. We're going to talk with Cooper Smith from the America First Policy Institute. We got Patrice Onwuka from the Independent Women's Forum. In the new music spotlight, she was the #3 artist of the year a year ago with the song called The Truth. This year, she's back with another big hit. Her name is Megan Woods. She's one of your favorites. We've got sketch comedy from Al Berry, a cartoon from Al Berry. We've got the Babylon Bee. We've got Nick Peterson doing social commentary again this week. I think he's good at this stuff. We're going to probably have more of him as we go along. All that is straight ahead. Kevin McCullough. Come follow us at That Kevin Show and have fun all week long. Don't forget, launching the Monday through Friday broadcast, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, starting November the 24th. Kevin McCullough saying, come on back. It's going to be a great one.
Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's That Kevin Show. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us. ThatKevinShow.com for everything related to the show. And don't forget, starting November 24th, 210 new stations joining us Monday through Friday to take the broadcast, and we're happy about that. Cooper Smith is the director for the Homeland Security and Immigration section of America First Policy Institute and joins us for the first time. Cooper, I'm hearing things about border security and threats from cartels on the president and the priorities and even possible military coordination with Mexico. I'm curious about what the DHS's response to this is and how we deal with all of this. But this seems like an unnecessary headache considering we have all these disruptors here at home as well.
Yeah, we do. I would say it's kind of multi-pronged whole of government approach from not just DHS, but I think what separates the kind of Trump 2.0 from Trump 1.0 is that you have other federal agencies. You have the State Department involved. You have now the Department of War, formerly Defense Department, involved in sort of the militarization of the fight against the cartels, against narco-terrorists. So it all started when President Trump labeled cartels as FTOs, as foreign terrorist organizations, quite a number of months ago. And from there, the investigations began and all the new authorities to go after these cartels. So I think the narco terrorist strikes, the drug boat strikes that we're focused on right now are just a piece of that broader puzzle. But don't forget about China. Don't forget about India. They often create the precursors to fentanyl and other drugs that are trafficked into our country that the cartels make money off of. So we like to say at AFPI that under the Biden administration, the cartels became very, very rich, right? We're talking multi-billion-dollar organizations, and under Trump, we're sending them to their grave.
Well, and this brings me to what, my industry, the media, wants to focus on and talk about, but there's been more than one person that has asked the president in recent weeks, should Maduro believe his days are numbered? And his answer is consistently yes. J.D. Vance's is yes. Marco Rubio's answer to that question is yes. We're not saying we're going to go to war with Venezuela, are we?
I don't think so. I think what they're saying, what I've heard publicly, is that they're insofar as the Maduro regime is facilitating narco trafficking, they want to target that. And I know that they've floated sort of CIA kinetic operations, clandestine operations within Venezuela. We haven't seen that come to fruition yet. We don't know how much the administration is balancing what they're sort of the public bravado versus actual military operations. We know that they're willing to take action, though. And this is what separates...
Those little videos of the boats going by seem to indicate that. So, yes.
Yeah. And look, that's happening on international waters. They're relying upon intelligence and the foreign FTO designation, which I think they are absolutely right to do. But we don't know what that balance that they're going to strike is on sort of what they're they're positioning, obviously, aircraft carriers and other military assets in the Caribbean.
I was about to ask, what does all of that indicate? I mean, my brother-in-law's an F-18 pilot, so he probably knows stuff that he can't tell me. And when he does tell me, it'll be long past the time when it was necessary. But we wouldn't be moving a carrier into that region if we didn't sense that there was a significant, important reason to do so.
Sure. I think the important reason is that a lot of the drugs are trafficked through the Caribbean. And it was interesting, the Associated Press actually sent down a few reporters to that part of the world to interview people. Of course, the AP was hoping that these locals would say these are not drug traffickers who are leaving on these boats. But actually, the locals confirmed that they, in fact, were. The administration has also done a couple interesting things, Kevin. They've added new cartels to this list. So it's not just MS-13 and other ones that people generally know here in the States. There's a number of them. We're talking dozens. And so I think they've rightly recognized that they need to posture themselves aggressively. The prior administration basically just said, let's send out some Coast Guard cutters and we'll interdict as much as we possibly can. Well, that strategy didn't work. And Trump expects results, and he's getting them right now.
Well, doesn't a strategy like that, too, end up just getting your Coast Guard guys killed? Like, that approach is not nearly like you're bringing a knife to a gunfight. We need to bring a bazooka to the pistol fight, and that's what we're doing. And the best formula of war is never having to go to war because the bad guys just are incentivized to change their behavior.
Yeah, and I think people associate President Trump with kind of peace through strength, right? As a peacemaking president, I think that's a something that he wants to carry as part of his legacy. But don't forget about the strength part of that slogan, if you will, right? Yeah. And so he takes that very seriously. We saw this in Iran, right? Some people within even the administration and definitely in the media sphere said he was wrong to take that action by taking out Iran's nuclear facilities and capabilities. But I think it's been a categorical success. And so I think that's roughly what we're seeing here in the Caribbean. Some posturing, but then also, hey, if you get out of line, if you send drugs and terrorists up into our country, we are going to take action until it stops. So if they want the strikes to stop, then they need to stop the drugs. Yeah.
Well, it's been amazing to watch him work when he's had an administration that has basically people that he trusts at the heads of the departments, because the efficiency with which things are getting done is so much better than in the first term. And whether it's tariffs and telling people that have been at war with each other for 100 years, you stop being at war, you're not going to trade with the U.S., or whether it's the idea of kicking down the gunboats or taking out the nukes, he's made an impression everywhere on the planet this year, and it's been to America's benefit, well-being, and safety. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just look what happened at the border. Remember, let's think back just a year ago. The Democrats were telling us in the campaign season that they could not unilaterally close the border. They told the American people this in campaigns, in debates, in speeches. They did 100 media interviews saying as much. Karine Jean-Pierre, went on the White House press podium and said, we can't close the border, it's out of our control. Congress needs to do that. That was a complete lie. The American people saw through that lie and elected somebody who believes that if you give Border Patrol and ICE the men and women who put on those guns and badges every day, the authorities that they need and the support that they need, you can close the border literally in a heartbeat. And that to me is what is such a heartbreaking thing as an American, that the 12 to 15 million people who were illegally smuggled or trafficked or otherwise came into the United States over the last 4 years, that didn't need to happen. The hundreds of women who were raped en route through Central and South America, that didn't need to happen. If simply Kamala Harris and Joe Biden told the truth to the American people, which said, yeah, we can close our border. You can just do things. Yeah. And President Trump is doing that. Well, nearly 400,000 kids lost, supposedly, in that system as well. And I know that AFPI's Bob Unanwe has a very different view of that, and he's fighting the fight to go try to find those kids and help them and clean up that situation. But we found ourselves in the midst of messes we didn't need to be in, certainly. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to ask about the domestic front on all of the ICE enforcement. And kind of where things stand and where we go from here, because the president, again, using strength, has been able to, I think, make some neighborhoods like Washington, D.C. feel a whole lot safer. But is it your opinion that the courts will ultimately allow him to do that? Let's take a quick break. Glad you're with us.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us. Cooper Smith is with us. He's Director of Homeland Security and Immigration for AFPI, America First Policy Institute. We talk to them on this show every week for a reason. They are fighting for policy purity. They are fighting for actions that are consistent with what the America First agenda has been and was largely put into play in Trump's first term. But their need came about when he had to leave office under fishy circumstances. And now that he's back, they are assisting us, the entire country, in helping assert that agenda. And Cooper, I appreciate your efforts in that regard on all levels. We talked about the kind of outside the U.S. border side of this issue, but inside our borders, courts and leftists and people like Mamdani and others are just taking great delight in trying to frustrate the president's desire to get dangerous criminals removed that should never have been here to begin with. And I'm just curious, as you're like surveying the landscape right now, what's your feeling as you've had the courts in different places weigh in on this, but specifically his use of the National Guard, specifically most recently in Portland, where this judge is acting like they've achieved the ultimate victory, forgetting, I guess, that it's still going to go to SCOTUS probably in all likelihood. Yeah. So how do you judge the scorecard right now?
Well, when I look at it, keep in mind for your audience that 75% of nationwide injunctions that have happened in recent American history have been against President Trump. And of those 75%, 90 to 95% were by Democrat-appointed judges under Obama, Biden, past Democrat presidents. So to me, it's a pattern where not only the court system, but the media and, of course, the Democratic Party, progressives, sort of the activist base and the organizations, they're sending a very clear signal to me. One is that they do not support immigration enforcement at all.
Right.
They see the Biden border crisis as not a crisis at all. In fact, they probably want more people to come to the country illegally. And of course, to me and at AFPI, we believe that is because they want permanent political power. That ultimately is the goal. And the joke I like to tell amongst friends is that if these illegal immigrants voted Republican, Democrats would have built a wall that went up to the moon.
That's true.
And right. and so people like Mamdani, but not just Mamdani, they really are the future of the Democratic Party. Just listen to party leadership. You have AOC, who's threatening to primary Chuck Schumer. I was just looking at and I'm no Chuck Schumer fan by any means, but I was just looking at a poll earlier that she's leading in a primary against Chuck Schumer.
Yeah.
So the future of the Democratic Party, the progressive movement, is firmly on the side of open borders. They do not look back at the Biden border, catastrophe and crisis with anything aside from, well, let's learn from that and make it even bigger, make it even worse. So that, to me, is really the concern. I did see, of course, in Portland that recent ruling, but I think cooler heads will prevail at the Supreme Court level. But look, when Mamdani comes out and says, I don't want any ICE in my city, I don't want any interior enforcement, to me, that only, if I'm sitting in the White House and I'm Tom Homan or I'm President Trump, I'm thinking, well, let's surge resources to New York next week.
Yeah, but don't put them under city control for sure. Well, it's going to be interesting because I don't think normal Americans that pay their taxes, go to church, do the stuff that Americans do, I don't think that these people are the ones that are saying that this is terrible. In fact, I look at places like Washington, D.C., and I have infinite familiarity with Washington, D.C., and for all the years and all the administrations and all the mayors that came through there that just continued to wreck that town. And the fact that people can actually go for a walk at 2 o'clock in the morning with their dog and not be afraid of getting shot or robbed is really rather remarkable. And it speaks to the president's desire to really bring peace, like he's been doing all over the world. He wants to bring it to America's inner cities. He wants to bring it to the lives of real Americans. And if you are against that, if you campaign against that, there has to be something wrong with you. I mean, I know that the Democratic Socialists are very high on Mamdani, and they say, well, look at what he's accomplished. Yeah, okay, he got 50% of the vote in New York City. And Sanders and AOC and Meeks and Hakeem Jeffries, they were all there with him.
Yeah.
But that is the face of what they're offering. They're offering extremism. There's nothing left of the JFK-style Democrat that my parents were inclined to vote for back in the day. And I think that the more people realize how quickly their rights are going to be taken away, the faster they're going to become very in favor of putting America's interests first. It really is remarkable. Cooper Smith, keep doing great work at AFPI. Thank you for being with us.
Yep.
Kevin McCullough coming back from Times Square. Don't go away.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back, Kevin McCullough. Glad to have you with us. Friends, I am very, very pleased to tell you that in the course of this year, where we have asked you to help us with our slave liberation project, and this is, I think, the 8th year we've done it, we've seen over the course of those 8 years, by the way, just on this show, more than 5,000 human beings be liberated from human slavery, and that touches me greatly. But I want to tell you that this year we have hit a little bit of a challenge. We have a goal of 208 slaves that we know the names of, and we have a list for that we can liberate this year. But we have only liberated 72 thus far, which means that we still have, 136 that are still in captivity and will not be scheduled to be liberated until we speak for them. And this is of great concern to me because we have September, October, November, December. Now, we could do that fairly simply if everyone that has the potential to liberate a slave steps up and says, I will do that. I will be part of that solution. We could do that pretty quickly. We could probably finish it off in just a week or two if everybody said, hey, let's get on board. But I am very, very worried that we are going to get to the end of the year, and instead of giving someone a Christmas liberation that will set them free for the rest of their life, we tell someone that they have to wait for another liberation opportunity to come along. So I am very concerned, and I'm leaning into you a little bit because I want to make sure that if we have the opportunity to do so, that we do it immediately, that we don't wait for some other time. I don't know when these precious, precious women will have another chance. And I want to make sure that if we know their name and we know their story and we have negotiated for them to be released now, that we do everything that we can in order to do that. Okay, so here's how it works. A lot of you have written, said, Kevin, we're just hearing about it for the first time this year. How does it work? These slaves were taken into captivity during the Sudan Civil War, and what is now Northern Sudan or Sudan proper, were holding Christian women from the South, that is now its own country, South Sudan. They were holding women from that area as slaves, captives, sex slaves, chattel slaves, work slaves, you name it. These women have been put through it. They have been sexually abused. They are regularly verbally abused. They are physically abused. They are beaten. They are raped. They are tortured. And if they resist at all, it just gets worse. That's what they have lived with for the last 15 to 20 years individually. And some of them taken as young girls, the abuse started very young, because many of them are just still in their late 20s, early 30s when we are able to get them liberated. And that means they have still a very full life to live. My friends at Christian Solidarity International, who were kind of crucial in getting the peace accord drawn up between the North and the South in Sudan, and used the American administration and other governments to help put pressure on the two sides, was not able to convince the international community to do anything about the slavery. So we have Christian Solidarity International, and people like you and I have been diligently trying to get the 185,000 slaves out of northern Sudan back to southern Sudan where they came from. And to date, we've liberated over 100,000 slaves, which is amazing. The problem is that we have about 35 to 40,000 slaves left, and that does include the children of some of the slaves who were impregnated by their slave masters in slavery. But this is how simple it is, and this is how it works, and it's a very, very simple process. $250 one time. $250 one time liberates a slave for life. It gives them their freedom, and not only that, the main thing it gives them, because we negotiate the freedom, the main thing that it gives them is everything they need to start their life over. So in the what's called the bag of hope that is given to every liberated slave, you have bags of grain for food that they can make for the coming year, a full year's worth of sorghum grain. Then there's a bag of seed that they can plant to grow more sorghum. So you've got food for now, you've got food for the future. They are also given some clothing items, some blankets, some tarps, some things that help protect them from the weather, some things that will help them survive in the kind of unique weather that South Sudan has. There are utensils for gardening, fishing, cleaning, all of those types of things that they may need. There are some utensils for them that cover all of those things. And then kind of the cherry on top of the sundae is they're given a little she-goat. A little she-goat that can be used to have other baby goats and thus give them some micro-enterprise for their life. That and growing the grain and producing the milk and the cheese. They can also have a lot of food products that they're going to be able to use. Some of them will be able to liberate their children with them, and so this will be automatic nourishment for their kids, the goat milk in particular. These are all things that are going to come about from your $250 gift. Your one-time $250 gift supplies the goat and all of those supplies, plus a Bible, plus some other things as needed. Some of the women need medical care because of how the abuse has been impacted upon them. They receive that at no additional charge. Counseling, the ability to talk to people from CSI, the ability to write their story down and remember their name. They also help them find the original place of origin where they came from in South Sudan. And if they have family, if they have friends who remember them, they try to relocate them there. But if they can't find someone, then there are now these communities of former slaves that have sort of banded together to form sisterhoods that they can go and live with in freedom. No more slavery, no more beatings, no more labor that is forced upon them. They get to have a life. And most importantly, they get to begin to worship God the way they wish as Christians instead of taking on the false Islamic identities that their slave masters forced them to do. One of the ways that they are abused is female genital circumcision, which is visited upon them. The slave master says, if you're going to be a good woman in this culture, you have to circumcise yourself. Many of the women bleed out. Some of them have died from the procedures. Many times it's very unsanitary in how they are forced to do it, and they're forced to do it to themselves. It is heinous what they have gone through. And yet, friends, we can change all of that for them. 1-888-342-1010. 888-342-1010. Or go to this website, bringherhome.org. Bringherhome.org or 888-342-1010. But please go and liberate a slave right now. We need your help.
Ready or not, we'll be right back. That Kevin.
Ron Mamdani, congratulations on being the first radical Islamist communist mayor of New York City.
Thanks, Bernie. By any chance, could you spare some change? I promised a bunch of free stuff and I have no idea how to pay for it.
I don't, but you should stop begging for money like you're some kind of homeless panhandler. Anyway, I'd like to know your plan to make NYC a better place to live.
Right, let me show you. As you know, 9/11 was Islamophobic. The day after radical Islamist terrorists crashed a plane into the Twin Towers, Americans for no reason felt uncomfortable sitting next to men wearing turbans. So, I want to make it illegal to remember 9/11.
I have to be honest, Sauron, that's a bad idea. Besides, I don't even think you can make laws.
That's because the system is Islamophobic. I'll call the New York governor right now. Hi, Kathy. Will you help me make it illegal to remember 9/11? No. That would require me to do my job, and I don't like to work. Ugh. Could you at least spare some change? I made so many promises I can't deliver on. Damn Islamophobists! Alright, my next idea is prison reform. The New York prison system is full of people who don't deserve to be there. Did they commit felonies? Sure. Are a lot of them violent recidivists? You bet. But they're also victims. That's why I want to get rid of the NYPD, so nobody can ever be arrested for being a victim again.
I like the idea, but I don't think you'll get it done without help. And I know just who to ask. Alexandria, would you support Zoran's prison reform?
And could you spare some change? There's so many things I said I could do but can't.
Well, I am the smartest woman in the world, but no, sorry.
Oh, so you're Islamophobic.
2, 3, 8.
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Nostradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Still to come, Patrice Onwuka joins us from the Independent Women's Forum. Nick Peterson with more social commentary. Sketch comedy from Al Berry and the Babylon Bee. And helping liberate human slaves. It's worth the fight. And back in the spotlight, it's the big vocal herself, Megan Woods. And now from Times Square, where the mayor-elect is so deep in financial crisis, he's considering selling naming rights to the Brooklyn Bridge. Here's the Kevin. You don't say. There's real problems there. He's what? He's facing problems.
Big trouble. He's in big trouble.
Oh. I guess he is if he's asking other Democrats how to get help for him. Yeah, maybe get off more than he can chew. Let's get to the news.
For a Simon Desk weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough. Happy weekend, America, or what's left of her. We begin in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, a beautiful swamp of historic monuments overflowing cherry blossoms and the lingering scent of burning taxpayer money. Meanwhile, in Idaho, Brian Koberger, the accused killer in the college murders case, reportedly enjoyed a financial windfall while in jail. Yes, really, because nothing says justice like a guy behind bars making more money than a substitute teacher. Over in Georgia, a new prosecutor has taken over Trump's elections case after Fani Willis was disqualified for what legal scholars call conduct unbecoming and what ordinary Americans call dating your subordinate, while prosecuting a former president, which is totally normal behavior now. The new prosecutor says he's committed to restoring credibility. And sure, I'm committed to restoring Blockbuster and MySpace and marriage stability in Hollywood. In entertainment news, singer Meghan Trainor blasted body shamers after losing 60 pounds, prompting millions to ask an important question: why do strangers care more about your body than the guy in aisle 6 at Costco wearing sweatpants from 2009 who smells like boiled cabbage? She said she did it for health, happiness, and chasing toddlers. The internet responded, "How dare you?" In cuisine, a woman claims cooking in work clothes saves her $60 a week and has the world rethinking dinner. Yes, revolutionary discovery that, wait for it, cooking at home keeps more money in your bank account. Tomorrow on Good Morning America, experts reveal a stunning study. Water is wet. In sports now, Eagles lineman Jordan Mailata interrupted a reporter to enforce a ladies first policy. The activist left is stunned. An NFL player who believes women exist and should speak before men. Somewhere, a sociology professor just fainted and fell into their cardigan collection. Meanwhile, North Korea's Kim Jong-un is sending troops to Russia to help clear minefields for Putin because nothing says healthy global alliance like sharing explosives with the world's most unstable nuclear dictator. Doctors warn troops may face shortages of food, equipment, and sunscreen strong enough for Siberia. Putin offered his personal thanks, saying human life is precious, which is why I prefer using other people's. Chuck Schumer, according to David Marcus, has finally reaped the whirlwind, proving that decades of political opportunism eventually lead to a harvest of chaos. Kind of like planting dandelions and acting shocked when your yard looks like a hippie drum circle. Retail apocalypse update. Saks off Fifth is closing stores nationwide. Experts say the meltdown is due to inflation, online shopping, and the harsh reality that Americans no longer want to pay $49.99 for a shirt that looks like it was sewn by a drunk squirrel. Energy news. Oil and gas demand may grow until 2050. The climate activists responded with their usual alarm and calm reasoning by supergluing themselves to the entrance of a Whole Foods. Baseball legend Trevor Williams has dismissed concerns about his legacy after opposing sex changes for minors, saying protecting children matters more than trophies. Twitter users were enraged, citing their constitutional right to yell bigot into the void. And finally, Morgan Freeman is threatening legal action against AI imitators using his voice without permission, explaining, quote, "I'm a little pod," which in fairness is what most of us feel like before coffee. For Assignment Desk Weekend, I'm Calvin McCullough.
After a record-breaking 41-day stalemate in the U.S. Senate, lawmakers have finally gathered the votes to move forward with a continuing resolution. Congress is now making preparations to switch over from doing nothing because of the shutdown to their usual job of doing nothing simply because they're Congress. "I don't know what the American people are really expecting," said Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. "We're still not going to do anything. That's why I voted no. At least that way the people would blame the shutdown and not us directly. Also, let me make it clear that the shutdown was always the Republicans' fault, even though the only people who changed their votes to pass the resolution were Democrats. But if we say it was the Republicans' fault, half of the country will believe it. That's just the way things work. I don't make the rules." Not all members of Congress are equally excited for the government reopening. Security footage captured a weeping Rand Paul in a Capitol stairway muttering something about fiscal responsibility. Meanwhile, House Representative Thomas Massie was seen resetting the novelty timer he began wearing on a chain around his neck at the start of the shutdown, representing days free of irresponsible workplace spending. When Senator Elizabeth Warren was asked how the government reopening would change her day-to-day activities, she replied simply, "How? How?" In other news, is Jackie Chan dead? Certainly not, as he is currently operating camera 3 right in front of me.
You ever look at these people and think, maybe he's right about the Tylenol? Why do the loudest ones always look like Bebop from the Ninja Turtles? It's funny how you can usually tell how someone votes these days just by looking at them. Let's play a quick game. Who do you think this guy voted for? Hit me with your best guesses. Yep. How about this one?
When I walk down the street here, every once in a while a car will stop and the man in the car will hit on me or bruh.
And how about this one with a face only a shovel can love?
I'm a little trans girl, small and cute.
Your kids are just trying to watch Dude Perfect trick shots or Paw Patrol, and then a 50-year-old pervert pops up, looks like the monkey lizard from Star Wars. I'm a little trans girl. No, you're a predator. You don't need validation for your gender from children. You need Jesus. More proverbs, less pronouns. A doctor visit probably wouldn't hurt, though.
What brings you in today?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's the orange democracy-destroying, Putin-loving dictator.
All right, so mental illness.
I'm hung up on why they try their best to look like they have a mental illness. Who told you that having 1-inch bangs looked good? Let that friendship sail. They lied to you. It's like they asked for a bowl cut and the stylist used a pickle jar lid. It is a warning device, though, that I think we should probably be thankful for. Like venomous snakes, right? Red on yellow kills a fellow. Red on black, friend of Jack. There needs to be a saying. Blue on hair, approach if you dare. Right? White above the eye, reality doesn't apply. Ring and septum, daddy left them.
Ready or not, we'll be right back. That Kevin. From New York, that Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back. It's That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com. Just a reminder, November the 24th, we go every day. That Kevin Show nationally, 2 hours, 2 to 4 Eastern. Hope you'll check it out on a local Salem affiliate near you. Always appreciate you being with us here on That Kevin Show. Someone else who I appreciate always is Patrice Onwuka, who, Patrice, you just don't fit the normal, shall we say, profile for the economic people that talk about things on TV. African-American mom. People think of white-haired, old white guys, former bankers talking about economic theory, but I always find your takes on everything so refreshing. So thanks for coming on back. We talked about how the shutdown was impacting women in particular, and you represent the Independent Women's Forum. Now that it is over, how soon do things begin to roll? And were the Republicans right in really, after everything was done, saying, look, guys, this was a $15 trillion waste of time that we didn't even have to go through?
Yes, good to see you, Kevin. First off, we're going to start seeing the impacts of the government shutdown, I would say probably tomorrow, when federal workers may potentially start to see some of that back pay return to them. The deal that was struck ensures that furloughed and workers who are working unpaid, federal workers, they will all get their back pay, and not necessarily waiting for the traditional or the slotted, calendared pay cycle. I'm married to a furloughed federal worker who just went back to work this morning, and so we'll be looking forward to his.
Are they using modern technology to deliver that too? Will these be like direct deposits into people's accounts?
It will be a direct deposit into their accounts, which is really important, because if you are, married to a deployed soldier, for example, and you need to make the next, light bill payment or car note payment, you can't wait for a check to be cut. And so, we're going to see that impact start to, spread across the entire nation, particularly for those people who are impacted. And we know that this didn't just stay concentrated among federal workers. This spread to airports with the significant 10%, near 10% delay, slashing of flights and cancellations of flights and delays of flights, but also to the 42 million households that receive food benefits. So this is going to be felt pretty quickly. And listen, we can quibble about how many people are on SNAP benefits. There are way too many. We can quibble about a lot of federal spending, but the most important thing was to get the government reopened, and Republicans were right for standing their ground. Kudos to Speaker Mike Johnson. Kudos to Senate Majority Leader John Thune for really holding the line, and kudos to President Trump for not undermining their leadership and negotiating behind the scenes with Democrats, which is what Democrats were hoping for.
Yeah, he didn't even flinch. Like this version of Trump is so cool because he just doesn't care. Like, he's just going to do what he thinks is right, and that's the end of the story. Really refreshing when it comes to public service, for sure. Yeah. I do want to ask, so a little context and background on this. It was probably the day that the SNAP benefits stopped.
Yes.
And a prominent African-American pastor that the entire nation would know his name if I said him, stood with Governor Hochul here in New York and said, and this is a pastor I have a relationship with. We're friends. We disagree on some things, but we go way, way back. And he said, I'm proud to stand with Governor Hochul, who's trying to do something to help people. He goes, some of you, the term government cheese doesn't mean much to you, but, if your life depends on it, blah, blah, blah. And I appreciated the sentiment that a local state lawmaker was trying to step up and do something in the absence of the federal government not necessarily working for the people at that moment in time. But I felt compelled to put a comment on the social media post that said, good job, Governor Hochul. But really, Pastor, the issue here was that the people specifically here in New York, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, AOC, all people, some of which I believe are in the area where his church is based, they all failed the very people that he was trying to make a point about. And my point is, I don't think the American people were all that confused about whose fault this was and why those things stopped working.
Well, let's think about the language that Democrats were using. They talked about the pain. They recognized the pain that they were inflicting and called it leverage. Not just the minority whip, Catherine Clark, but you heard the word leverage come out of many mouths over the past week. It was cold and callous to say, you know what? We know that you, as a military spouse, your husband is deployed, and you don't know how you're going to keep a roof over the head of your children. But we want to save a few dollars for six-figure earning households so that they can, afford their health care. That's kind of a trade-off, and that's a really unbalanced trade-off.
Mm-hmm.
And I give you that example, Kevin, because that is exactly the story that we received from a woman. I believe she was from Kentucky, but we had over 1,500 comments flood in from families detailing the kind of pain that they were going through because of this shutdown. And so you can't deny that, yes, there are limited resources, and we have to figure out where our policymakers have to figure out where the priority should be. But it really is hard to defend taking nutrition out of the mouths of poor children and poor pregnant women, taking away the benefits of people serving in the military, taking away the benefits of people who do rely on the public assistance, not just the ones who have it because they can qualify, but the ones who truly need it, just so that other people can afford to save a couple of dollars on health care. And they tried to spin it as about keeping millions of people from falling off of health care, but then they have to admit that fundamentally, the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare, was never affordable. And as soon as the individual mandate was struck down and eliminated, and people no longer had a gun to their head to have any health care or the Affordable Care Act, then people were realizing that, yes, there's no way to balance the cost and actually rein in the spending. So, we're going to continue to see these stories come forward, the truth come forward behind this. But I think the American people are starting to realize who really cares about the poor in this country.
Well, and that was my bigger point, is that the left in this country do not have any qualms at all about exploiting poor people, people of color, people with disabilities, people that are unborn, people that for whatever reason don't check the box that they believe should be checked. And at the end of the day, you saw kind of that cold, callous, we just don't care about these people, and we will use them for our political messaging however we need to. And this fell apart for them on that front about as badly as I've ever seen something fall apart. Because, starting with the sombrero memes with Hakeem Jeffries all the way through to the end, where everybody in the world hates Chuck Schumer, the two leaders in the Congress they never got traction on the message of Donald Trump bad, Republicans trying to hurt poor people. It never worked this time.
It was really telling this time, Kevin.
Yeah, there was message discipline on the Republican side that I was pleased to see, because sometimes they fold like a bad card table. When we come back, speaking of bad card tables, Jasmine Crockett's been talking about something. We're going to talk about it.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back. A few more minutes with Patrice Onwuka. Glad to have you with us at That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com for all the social, podcasts, videos, column. Everything is there. It's easy. Thatkevinshow.com. Go and check it out, including you still have a chance to win a 75-inch flat screen television and tickets to see Trans-Siberian Orchestra this holiday season. We haven't given that away yet, so you can check the promotions tab and do that. Patrice Onwuka is back with us. Patrice, I wonder sometimes if there's this massive joke being played on the American people, because you have people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Jasmine Crockett and others that are held up with esteem by the media as though they are similar, like in stature to, like, I don't know, Ronald Reagan. But like, I look at them, I hear them talk, I see them say things, and I go, how do these people not just get in office, but how do these people end up being like the featured favorites on Sunday shows and stuff? I mean, I remember a time when if you weren't like written up in the Wall Street Journal editorial page or the New York Times, you weren't going on a Sunday show. And these jabberheads get on all the time, and they're treated as though they're like, I don't know, Ivy League scholars or something, and they just continually, I mean, I kind of laugh at them because I think that they're that ridiculously hilarious, but it's not a comedy act.
It's not, although they do put on an act, particularly when I think about Jasmine Crockett. When you listen to her speak, she speaks like someone who hasn't been, educated. The slang, the ebonics, that's a throwback word. She chooses to speak that way, not because she was probably raised to speak that way. So
that's not really her?
It's not really her, but Jasmine Crockett, AOC, they have been effective in crafting a really unique image that can go viral on social media. And that's one of the things that even her staff has noted. She wants to be a social media star. And so if you can perfect that 15-second clip, I'm going to get you, say something really outrageous within a few seconds, then I've locked you in, and now you're listening to whatever I have to say. They built personalities and personas around that. They throw out very little policy, because if I'm not wrong, Jasmine Crockett hasn't passed any legislation while she's been in Congress. Nothing that she herself has authored.
I think AOC's passed almost the same amount, and she's been there for more terms.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this, though,
they
because
put stuff out.
Let me ask you this, though, because as a very, excellent representation of what the Independent Women Forum is about, you come to the subject matter that you come to, as does, every person we have on from IWF, with a degree of expertise, a degree of credibility, a degree of education and experience and knowledge and a basis. And I wonder at times, the party that says it's all about women, the party that says they are the women's party, the party that says they speak for women nationally, the quality of the messengers seems to be lacking. And I don't see, like, normally kind of illiberal women in the mainstream, not partisans, just like CEOs of companies and stuff like that. I don't see these people saying, don't speak for me. You're not doing me any favors. I don't want any help. Are they moving? And then when they jump on the bandwagon with trans rights and all, boys and girls locker rooms, you're basically undermining everything that Title IX and the women's movement has put forward. So are they, by the way they conduct themselves in public, setting women back in terms of public policy?
Well, in some ways they are, particularly when it comes to the trans issue and sex and gender issues, because so much has been fought to ensure not just sports, and sports are important, women's sports, but also spaces. And so when they lose credibility talking about women's prisons, when they're more than willing to co-sign a male who pretends to be a woman being put and housed in a female's jail or prison facility, where that pedophile pedophile or that sexual predator has full access to women. And listen, I 100% agree and think that women deserve, even those who are serving prison times, deserve a level of humanity. So they lose that. I really do wonder where the traditional feminists have gone on this issue. But the younger generation, this new generation, they are loud. They are outspoken, and because they're used to the microphone and the social media strong presence, they think that builds credibility with people, and the adults in the room have not stopped them. The adults in the room, Nancy Pelosi is a great example. Nancy Pelosi had to figure out a way to deal with AOC, but never really put her in her place and said, you know what, you actually come up with some policies before you, stop a major retailer from setting up shop in your among your constituents and providing jobs for them. So
well, now that AOC is basically hip and hip with Mamdani, this is the new face for the Democratic Party. They're saying that the socialists are going to take over.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
All right, friends, thank you for being here. Always appreciate you taking us with you on your weekend and being part of That Kevin Show. It means so much. ThatKevinShow.com for everything related, including a way to get involved in the passion project that has been my biggest passion for the last number of years. I many years ago, feeling very blessed and humbled that God would allow me to have reach beyond where I was just at and becoming syndicated and so forth. I kind of made a commitment to him many years ago that we would always use a piece of whatever I do to help advance God's kingdom. And in recent years, we have worked most often with a group called Christian Solidarity International that has, introduced me to something that I have been so passionate about. I mean, my family personally is involved with CSI at a very high financial commitment level. In fact, this year we have basically doubled our monthly giving to CSI on a month-by-month basis. And going back to COVID, just to rewind the tape a little bit, my children who were home because of COVID heard me doing my daily radio show, and they heard me advocating on behalf of slaves who had not been liberated. And this kind of rang a bell in their head, and they said, I remember slavery in school and so forth. And so they were asking me questions about it. And the more I told them about what was happening with these women and children that have been enslaved in Sudan, they just shouted out, Dad, what are we going to do about it? And I said, well, we do something about it. We give on a regular basis to CSI. And they said, that's not good enough. And so from that time forward, and we haven't been perfect at this, but we've tried every month where we have the ability to liberate one human life out of slavery through CSI month after month. And that's been 4 or 5 years now that's been the case. So literally a few dozen slaves have found their freedom because of the McCullough family just feeling very passionate about this and saying, we're going to prioritize this over other things. I don't make a ton of money. We don't have a huge fancy house. We live a very modest life. But this is important to us. And then this year we've done a little bit better, and we've been able to double that. So we're liberating 2 slaves a month in the McCullough house. And the reason I bring that up is because this year our goal is 208 slaves to liberate for the year. And so far, we have just barely knocked on the door of 80 lives that have been liberated. And for every one of you that have joined us on that journey, I want to say thank you, because that means that 80 individuals will now have lifelong freedom in a way that they have not known it before. But that is meaning that we have about 128 lives to go, and we're running out of time. November is a week away. We have got, we're going to get busy with holidays. Everything's going to rush by us really, really fast. Now, a couple of ways that could really be useful to reach that goal is if everybody listening and watching and reacted right now and said, okay, I'll do one slave each. And we had 128 people say, yeah, let me liberate a slave. That would take care of it right away. Let me give you the phone number, 888-342-1010, 888-342-1010. But the likelihood of that happening is probably not very good, and some of you can probably do more than others. So what I would love to tell you right now is that if you will make a donation this weekend of any size to CSI, one slave, $250, 10 slaves, $2,500. The McCullough family, we've talked about it, we've decided on this. We're going to match your gifts personally out of pocket from our family's heart to yours. We want to double that good. So in that situation, we don't need nearly as many of you to be involved, and we will own up more of what we need to do this weekend as well. But would you consider making that gift? 1-888-342-1010, 888-342-1010, and then take advantage of that. Now, who are the people that we're helping? This is probably the most important part and the hardest part to talk about, because these women that we are liberating out of slavery have nothing. They were taken sometimes as very, very small girls. They were married off to slave masters, married off, meaning they were forced to sexually serve those slave masters. They have been stripped of all of their dignity. They've been stripped of anything resembling a life. They've been stripped of their faith. Many of them were Christians, and then they were being put into Islamic households, and they were being told to do the most horrendous things. They had to, in the majority of instances, they had to self-circumcise as a woman. Now, this is a family show. I try not to be too graphic, but if you understand what circumcision involves, and if you understand the difference between male and female and why it's not really a thing for females to be doing, you understand what a gross human rights abuse this is. And most of the time, they were told to do it with nothing more than the rusty lid of a tin can or something like that. Many of them died or nearly died in the process of doing that. And they've been living in this type of abusive, horrifically abusive, rape, assault, verbal, physical, everything, for 15, 20 years on average. And what we have the ability to do, and CSI is already working in the field, these 208 women that we identified at the beginning of the year, we know their names. We know exactly who they are, and there is another liberation expected before the end of the year. So if you gave a gift this weekend, someone's life would be changed for Christmas. This is actually the best Christmas gift that you could give anybody, is to give them their freedom. But here's what I want you to know. They're going to be so inherently grateful, because they have received nothing but abuse. And what they get in return is a time of recovery at a safe recovery camp back in South Sudan. They get all of the supplies and things they need to start their life over from your gift, $250, but it gives them a year's worth of food, another year's worth of grain. It gives them a small she-goat that helps them develop a little bit of micro-enterprise. And you give them their dignity and their individuality back. You give them their identity back. They get their Christian names back. A lot of them have had their names taken away from them. So I need your help more than I've ever needed it. We are running out of time, and we are very, very far away from goal. 1-888-342-1010. I cannot tell you how meaningful it is that my own staff has given generously this year. Everyone I know, I try to tell about it. Would you help us? 888-342-1010. 888-342-1010.